Inner child work. What the heck is it actually, and why is it important for you in your business? I'm starting a little series called Demystifying the Inner Work because one of the issues that I find a lot in our industry is how many of these concepts, such as inner child work, are so ethereal and fluffy and up in the air and don't seem to have a tangible application to the things that we have. So my goal today in today's video is to really help you understand what is inner child work, why it's so important, and what are some practical ways that it is affecting your business right now, and what can you do about it. So let's start with this. Any given day, we are having thousands of thoughts, okay? And of those thoughts, it has been proven that around 95% of those are actually happening in the subconscious. What that means is that as you go about your day-to-day, waking up, brushing your teeth, making your coffee, getting to work, having conversations with people, only about 5% of your mind is actually conscious. And by that I mean the logical, rational, reasonable part of you, the prefrontal cortex, is the one that's online directing your day-to-day. The other 95% is a collection of the unconscious, which we're not going to go into today, and the subconscious. The unconscious is automatic body functions, like you don't have to remember how to breathe, or your heart doesn't have to remember how to beat. You don't have to remember how to walk as you're going about your day. But what is really important to pay attention to is the subconscious, which is our past conditioning. And by past conditioning, I mean all of the ways that we have learned from the environment that we grew up in, the culture, our parents, all the things that we learned were right and wrong, or the beliefs that we had adapted and have taken for granted our entire life and assumed to be true, is our past conditioning. Think of it as our computer program for how we run the way that we run. So our past conditioning, which is subconscious, is installed in us, and we essentially start to move about our day almost as a reaction to the way that we have programmed ourselves to be. So I want to hone in on the piece around past conditioning because this is where inner child work is very important. Now, past conditioning, it's really important for us to really consider the way that we're moving about life and ask ourselves the question, where did I learn this? And this is especially important because as we grow, because we as human beings, we either grow or we die, we are going to have goals. We're going to have goals around, this is how much money I want to make. This is the kind of life that I want to live. This is the sort of home that I want to have. We have goals. And wherever we are is a product of our past conditioning if we are moving about life unconsciously. So if you are here and you're stuck here and you want to get here, aka your goals, the space in between is who you are not yet. So because if you were the person who had these goals, you would just have the goals, but you're not, which means that you're not this person yet. And so it's really important to ask the question, why am I not this person yet? What is in the way of me stepping into that next level of who I really am? And the answer, I'm telling you from having worked with hundreds of people through this, is always going to be something in your past conditioning of who you believe that you are. What you believe you're capable of, what you believe you're worthy of, is always going to be the thing that from a psychological level is going to be keeping you from your goals. And as we know, and it's one of the things that Tony Robbins says I completely wholeheartedly agree with, is that success is 80% psychology, 20% strategy. So that 80% is that energetic block that you can't quite put your finger on. So what the heck does this have to do with inner child work? Consider this. From the age of 0 to 7 years old, and this is from a neuroscience, biological, developmental perspective, as a child, you start to develop your critical filter at around the age of 7. Your critical filter is, just as it sounds like, is the filter where you actually start to question things, where you start to say, is this logical? Does this make sense? Do I believe in this? Do I not believe in this? Before then, you're essentially a walking, talking, subconscious mind, okay? And what this means is that you are just this major sponge. And when you're in that really young developmental age of your life, you're essentially going to take on whatever you're taught to be true. You're going to assume that it's true. So if you grew up with parents who told you that money was hard to come by, you're just going to believe, yeah, money's hard to come by. If you grew up with parents who say, yeah, who have an amazing abundance mindset and say money is really, really easy, you're going to grow up believing money is really easy. Same thing with love. You grew up with parents who are constantly fighting. There's an association in your subconscious mind that gets developed that love means fighting, love means challenge, as opposed to growing up with very, very loving parents where you just assume like love means support, love means kindness, and so on and so forth. So we start to build up this bank of beliefs and patterns that we believe to be true that are heavily shaped by our caretakers, the people that we grew up with, heavily shaped by the culture that we were in and the environment that we were in. So for example, somebody who grew up in a first world nation, very, very privileged, is going to have a different set of beliefs than somebody around money and around safety than somebody who grew up in a very, like a war zone country. Okay, so take it this way. 0 to 7 years old, lots of things are happening and you're kind of absorbing everything in. And when you get to the age of 7, you're still absorbing things. There's still a lot of things that you're taking on. You're just starting to question things more. And when you become a teenager, you start to actually defy things and push back. So now let's just put it this way. For the brevity and conciseness of this video is that as a child, you learn a lot of the habits, behaviors, and beliefs that you carry with you today as an adult. And unconsciously, you might be making some key decisions in your life that are actually founded on your inner child's belief system. What I mean by that is, for example, if as a 5-year-old you learn money is hard to come by, as an adult, you will continue to replay situations in your life and navigate the world with the belief system, money's hard to come by, or I have to work hard to get money, which is a big one, especially for Westerners. I have to work hard to get money. So every time you make a decision in your business, it's around, do I need to work hard for this for me to get this money? Do I need to put in more hours in order for me to receive this input that I want? Same thing with love. Love is hard to come by. Do I need to effort my way into a good relationship? And so we start making decisions. Basically, you start making your decisions as an adult, but from the belief system of a 5-year-old. So you're allowing a 5-year-old to dictate the decisions that you make in your life and business today. So that is not helpful because you are an adult and you're growing, and actually you are the creator of your own destiny and the world is at your oyster, and truly you get to decide whatever reality that you want to create. But for you to bridge that gap between where you are now and where your goals are, you have to let go of the beliefs that you subscribe to as a child. And for you to do that, there's several techniques, there's several processes such as hypnotherapy, breathwork. There's many different ways that I teach my clients as well on how to do inner child work. But you essentially, the brief condensed version of it is you need to, number one, identify what are those belief systems? What are those habit patterns that I'm still engaging in that are actually preventing me from that next level of goals because I'm still operating under a system that I adapted as a child that isn't actually true and isn't serving me, but is still gripping me, because that's what happens when it's subconscious. It's still operating whether you like it or not. That's still in that 95%, whether even though you know, for example, intellectually that you want money to flow to you like water, you can say the mantra all you want, but until you resolve that with your inner child, it's gonna keep creating issues in your life and keeping you stuck in your life. So the idea is, and usually the idea is to do this through a facilitator, and this is something I also support with because it is your blind spot, it is the subconscious, is to identify what is that belief system specifically and where was the first time that I learned this and I believe this to be true. And depending on whether this was a traumatic event or not, it's going to be less or more time spent to actually resolve it. But let's just assume that it's just a simple event and you go back to that one time when you were 5 years old, really that moment when you believed it, you see it objectively as it is, you feel the emotion fully, you hold space for the difficult emotions, the anger, the grief, the sadness that's going on, and then you bring in your adult self to actually show your inner child self that that event was not personal, was not about you, and actually reframe the belief to what it is that you want it to be. Now that's an oversimplified version. This, of course, would be an entire hypnotherapy session, but the idea is go back to when that limiting belief, that conditioning that isn't serving you anymore was created. And then you want to fully feel the emotion that essentially is locking this into your body, that's like kept this, if you were very young, again, going with the money example, and you were 5 years old and you learned, oh my God, I have to work really hard to make money. There was like this panic and fear that got locked into your body as a child. You want to go back to that moment, release it, let it go and see, this isn't personal. This was my parents' belief. This wasn't mine. This isn't mine to take with me. Resolve it. Give that child what she or he needs in that moment to fully resource them, to feel like they're fully safe in that moment. You integrate them into your adult self, and then you bring them back into the present. And what you will notice is that charge, that energetic charge that used to exist around that inner child's belief, is going to loosen its grip over you. And when you're making decisions consciously, when you do resolve and you do the inner child work over time, when you make decisions consciously as an adult, you don't have that inner child, that unresolved, unintegrated inner child belief essentially interfering with your clarity and ability to make a decision as an adult moving into the future, instead of being locked into your past without even knowing it. So that is why inner child work is important, because we need to be present with and identify all of the ways in which the decisions that we're making when it comes to our business, when it comes to how we're showing up in our brand, are essentially keeping us small or keeping us stuck in the way that we used to be in our as our past selves. But the idea is we want to heal and integrate our past selves so that we can live in the now and actually be a creator of the person that we want to become, which only makes life better, because now you can meet the goals over here that seem inaccessible to you, or that seem like they're so far away, no longer, because now you get to become the person who's a perfect fit for those goals. Part of becoming that person is to let go of the person you used to be and to actually make peace with your inner child and all of those belief systems that were developed in that little boy or little girl's life that he or she assumed to be true. Because the subconscious mind doesn't know time and space. It doesn't have a past, present, and future. The subconscious mind is always living in the now. So in the now, you have your adult self with you and you have your inner child with you, always influencing you in that 95% subconscious. We work with the inner child. That 95% subconscious starts to resolve itself and actually clear itself out so that you have more clarity into the present and the future. Does that make sense? So hopefully it does. I just try to collapse years of inner child and subconscious reprogramming work into 10 minutes. But hopefully this brings some clarity as to why this is important. And now when we look at, for example, at one of the things that I support my clients with is really building that authentic brand and becoming magnetic. And if we look behind the scenes of what does it take to create an authentic brand, becoming magnetic, attracting the kind of clients that you want to attract and attracting the kind of opportunities that you want to attract, it actually literally looks like this process. It's one of the many pieces, which is you need to look at where do you want to be, what is the kind of brand that you want to create? What is it that you want to be known for? Who is it that you want to serve? Whose lives do you want to transform? Where are you now? Which might be, I don't feel confident in sharing myself. It might be, I don't feel really good about sharing my story, or I feel like I need to hide certain parts of myself in order for me to show up. And all of the places where you are now, where you're feeling stuck, is actually what I just talked about, the process of what I just talked about, which is where are the places and spaces where you decided unconsciously that you weren't worthy where you want to be, the kind of brand that you want to create, that you weren't worthy of charging the kind of rates that you want to charge, that you need to hide your brilliance or need to play small, even though you're doing incredible work in the world. Where did you learn this? And we need to release this on a mind, emotional, and spiritual level so that you can set yourself free to consciously decide who you want to become and bridge that gap. And that, my friends, is when we're looking at how to create a magnetic brand that gets you recognized, that gets you seen in your space, and that transforms people's lives. This is the behind the scenes work that some of the most successful people in the industry are doing once they can reach certain income levels and they can reach certain followers on Instagram. They can reach certain notability in their industry. But I can tell you, having been behind the scenes with these CEOs and leaders, is that for them to really explode and grow and feel good as they're doing it, so that they're not operating from their ego, but they're operating from their heart and soul. This is the work that needs to happen behind the scenes. So if this is the kind of work that you're ready to step into, then the amazing news is that I have my Master Your Story Mastermind that is opening up in June. And this is exactly the kind of work that we do. We get you super clear on what your goals are from a soul level, not from your ego. What is it that your heart truly desires? Where are you now? And nothing like, oh yeah, just go do the inner work. Like just, sit with your inner child and give her a hug. No, like actual specifics. What specifically what are those beliefs? What are those patterns? What are the stories that are in the way? Where do they belong? How do we clear them and actually get you to step into becoming the best story that you've ever told, so that you can tell the best story that you ever told, so that you can make decisions in your business as the functioning adult that you are and not subconsciously as a child, so that you can actually show up for your clients and be who you authentically are 100% and serve them and get beautifully rewarded for it, so that you can show up in your audience and again be who you truly are, and they can feel your energy and they will come to you and be magnetized by you by the virtue of who you really are, and not by being a collection of past conditioning that you're not aware of, that you're just dragging into the present. Let's let go and release and heal and integrate what's of the past so that we can move into the present. So if this is something you're interested in, send me a DM for more information. If you're also interested in private one-on-one work with me, there are a couple spots available right now. Also send me a DM for more information. And if I can give anything in this video, is do your inner child work. And don't just do it mystically and abstractly, but actually do it. There is a focused, structured way to do this so that it really moves the needle and it feels like as you're doing it, things are tangibly improving in your life. That is something that I teach. And it's something that I highly recommend that you do, because your inner child needs to be loved and seen and hugged and all those things you've heard on the internet. And there is a way to do that so that truly those limiting beliefs and past conditioning get released from your body in a sustainable, long-term way that will last your lifetime. Inner child work. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, that's it for today. Look out for the next one.